Hello, I'm Erin Marcus, founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business, and I want to welcome you to Ready Yet? If all you needed was a step-by-step plan of what to do, you could buy a book on how to succeed and you would be all set. But here's the rub. You'll never do what it takes until you become the person it takes to do it. The Ready Yet podcast is dedicated to those who are ready to become the person who succeeds, ready to become the person who steps into more, and ready to become the best version of themselves. In the I'm Ready interview series, join me for inspiring conversations with people who figured out who they needed to be in order to achieve their dreams, and were brave enough to be that person. Welcome to another episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I've been so excited to be interviewing people about how they became the person they became in order to achieve the success that they have achieved. Because I know we all learn from each other's examples. So I can't wait to introduce you to today's guest, Ms. LoriAnne Reeves, who I met, it's several years now, like several years now. We were involved in the same programs. And I totally remember, and I don't even know why it occurred to me, probably because one of the things that has always been obvious about you, because we all track each other on social media, is that you do the work. Every week, you're doing the things, you're doing the work. So I got this harebrained idea and randomly Facebook messaged you saying, hey, do you have an accountability partner? And I barely knew you. I think we had met in passing a couple of times, right? I like this person. I want to do this with this person. Maybe she'll be my friend, right? Right. And that's where it started. And before we got started, we talked about how we're so busy and we don't get to do what we did for a while. But there was a good year there where we would talk every Friday. We were lucky if it only lasted 2 hours. And we used to say, okay, well, we've solved all the world's problems. That's all we can do now. So I can't wait to share your story and what you've gone through and what you've been able to accomplish with it all. So why don't you give everybody a little more formal introduction to yourself?
Well, I love that story, Erin, because that's exactly how it came across. You, out of the blue, I got a messenger message, and I knew who you were, of course, and then exactly what you said. I'm looking for an accountability partner, and I want someone that's doing the work, and you're doing the work. And it was in the middle of just going through Hurricane Harvey down here in Houston, and I had lost internet for almost 60 days, let's say 60. I can't remember anymore. And I was working out of the coffee shop like so many people. And I was posting a lot daily about listening to conversations. And in the middle of that, you reached out to me. So that's how all that started. And you're right. We spent a good year talking almost every Friday and solving our problems, our business's problems, everyone else's problems in the world. Yeah, so this probably should be a book about that.
Right? We really should have recorded some of those conversations. Or maybe not, or maybe not.
Really. So to let your listeners know who I am right now, LoriAnne Reeves, and I am helping businesses with their sales, their leadership, and the right strategies to support both. Because if you're not using the right strategies and randomly throwing spaghetti up against the wall, which we are seeing so much of as we've gone into 2020 with the pandemic, it doesn't work, and you work so much harder and you make so much less money. So I love to work with folks that are willing to look at it differently. And I have a huge background in psychology and also in systemic work, which really helps my clients that are willing to dig deep and permanently put the stuff that gets in their way to rest. Nice. So, and I'm excited to be here, Erin, to have a conversation because we do that well.
We do that well. The problem here will be, we'll have to do a series. We could do a whole series. We'll just
there we go.
So I know your story, and I know, here's one of the things that I've always been drawn to you about, admired about. Hopefully someone can see that I try to do this as well, is there's one thing, bottom line, that you do. And it's kind of what I opened with. You do the work. No freaking matter what. You
Yes.
do what you said you were going to do. When you said you were going to do it, you do the work. And since we both in the coaching world, on both sides, we both have been to a ton of coaching programs and events, and we both do that for a living. Just talk about that. I mean, I know I don't have to prep you up on a lot of that, but how has it been so obvious that that's been such a differentiator in who you had to be?
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll go there. I mean, it showed up when I was a kid.
Mm.
I'm the oldest of five, and my poor mom had a set of twins for number 4 and 5,
Oh
and,
gosh.
and, and she had a nervous breakdown. And my dad needed my help. I was 9. And so
Wow.
I learned to do the work. you know,
Right.
they rely on me. There were days he took me out of school to do the work because the babies came home before she did. And
Oh,
it was, just one of those things. And I also came from a family that valued education, but they were kind of stuck where they were. And I was really at a young age recognized if I wanted something more, I needed to do more, meaning I needed to figure out who the people I needed to connect with, what work I needed to do to get ahead. And I've always been ambitious, even as a 9-year-old. So there's that piece of part of my personality. But when I got into this world 7 years ago, so what happened was the first conference I went to, and you might have been there because it was with our two favorite people, and it was a conference that they do every year, but it was like way back. And I was sitting there and I didn't know anybody. I can't even remember how I got there, but in terms of how I knew about this, I still had my private practice
mm,
in psychology. And everyone kept coming to the mic and they were crying and saying they weren't making any money in their businesses and with speaking. And I turned around and I said to the woman next to me, I said, why aren't they asking for business? It was that simple to me that they weren't asking for business. And we know that's notorious in small businesses and entrepreneurs. And it was like, why aren't you doing the work to ask for business? And so it's been a real clear banner for me. And you don't spend 20,000 on a mastermind and don't do the work, which we see all the time. They don't do the work. They don't put it out there. And I'm not perfect. I may do the work, but it can be messy sometimes because I'm not sure, but I'm willing to try.
So, because of the psychology background and because
Right.
of your experience, because I'm the same way,
Yeah.
I didn't understand why people didn't do the work. I
I
didn't
know.
understand. And it's the same thing. I got my first regular job at 13 years old. I worked 4 days a week. I was 13 years old.
Right.
So I had that blue collar Midwest mentality, which certainly has held me back in other places, but it gives you a really good work ethic, right?
It
It gives
does.
you
It
a really good work
absolutely
ethic.
does. It absolutely does.
So what do you think's going on? Like, because what I want to, it's like a good news, bad news thing. The good news is it's normal. The good
Yeah.
news is there's nothing wrong with you for not avoiding doing the work. But the bad news is you're never going to get anywhere that way.
Right.
So what do you think's going on? Like, how could there be that many people who say they want something, invest money,
Mhm.
invest time, but then don't actually do the things? Like, how does that happen?
Well, there are several reasons. The first thing, they don't do the work and the thing based on who they are. They
Mm.
try to emulate other people, and they are not other people. You can take other people's guidance and other people's techniques, just as you know, but you can't do it exactly like them because you're not them.
Yeah,
And so there's one thing. So that authenticity, I hate using the word because it's so overused, but there's some reality around that.
there's a lot of reality around
Yes,
that. Absolutely.
yes, because if I'm not myself, you're not gonna get my best work,
And you're
and
not going to believe me.
I know, well, the energy between you and the other person just isn't there. The second thing, is that people are lazy, um, lazy mentally, especially,
Yeah,
because
I
even
think that's true.
people that are clients of mine do the work, And because of my background, I can see where the stuckness is and where they need to go. And it can be painful. So I'm not trying to say it's easy. They won't do it because it's hard work.
It's
And
hard.
that's the piece that I feel is part of my success. I have been always willing to look deeper, and even when I didn't want to.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because to the outside world, they're not going to know that. But
No,
to the
they don't know
outside
that.
world, what I saw was
Mhm.
a woman who I didn't know your whole situation, but I knew you were stuck at a coffee shop while your house may or may not still be standing. I didn't know, I knew it was bad, but I'm like, she's doing what she needs to do regardless of the situation.
Right,
You were given a perfectly legitimate, reasonable excuse to not do the work, and instead
right.
you chose to do the work. And what you're doing externally, you will also often do internally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is the key. So and the other piece, there's so much hype out there around mindset. Let's just use that word. It's not a bad word, but it's actually to make permanent change, it's actually deeper than that. And that's the piece no one really wants to hear. I'll just change my thoughts. It starts there, but it's so much deeper than that. And the work I do with my clients, it's that much deeper, but that makes them successful and it makes work easier. It doesn't mean things aren't going to happen. Who would have known 2020 would have happened
Right.
for all of us, right?
You probably thought the hurricane was the hardest thing you were going to go through with your business.
Yes, yes. And with no end in sight right now. But my point is, it just like doing the work is more than just checking off the box externally in your business. It's also doing the work internally, but also at a deep level. So my commitment to myself and my clients is I always want to do deep, meaningful work. That's the one value I bring to the table for myself and others.
Well, and I think for those of us who, whether we were brave enough to do it, whether we got,
Forced to do it.
right,
Sometimes
got
we're
forced to do
forced
it,
to do
I
it.
said, got so sick of our own crap that we
I
had
know it. I
choice, we
know
had to do
it.
it. But when you get a glimmer of what's on the other side,
Mhm.
of what is possible, and I talk about this with money. I said this a long time ago, helping someone with their financial situation. When you can get as excited about making the deposit in the savings account as you did about buying the shoes, now you're on your way. And it's kind of like the same thing with the mindset and the deeper work. When you can get a glimmer of the relief and opportunity, you start to become addicted to that instead of addicted to holding on to the problem.
Well, absolutely. One of my famous sayings, and I should put a meme again out. You're reminding me. Is
Trademark it.
that
Trademark.
most people are addicted to struggle. They
Yeah.
would rather struggle than be successful, and that is one of the huge problems. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or not. People love the struggle, and I'm always about how to get yourself out of the drama. So whatever's truly there, that's what you do the work around.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I know I really enjoy having conversations about who you need to be in order to reach new heights. As founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business, I work with my clients at the intersection where what they need to do to succeed meets who they need to be to do it. If you would like to have a conversation about your business, please reach out to me at erin@conqueryourbusiness.com. Right. And it's sometimes it's not even addicted, but the struggle becomes a habit. And
Yes,
I
yeah.
noticed that with myself, that my definition as my hardworking Midwesterner was struggle, that I had to work hard in
Right.
order for things to happen. Well, the problem with that concept is you start creating the hard because that's your definition.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
taken me a long time to redefine. So it's not even always addicted, but a complete lack of awareness.
It's a total lack of awareness. People don't know they're addicted, so it's really lack of awareness. And you're right, it is a habit, and we make trouble for ourselves because we love the adrenaline too, and which is another psychological phenomena I won't go deep into, but we do feed off that.
Oh, absolutely.
A look at around us and what people watch on TV and what goes on. So there's all that stuff. And people really do not. So there's several other concepts that happen. People really do not feel their self-worth at all because that's all going on. So that plays into it. Don't feel they deserve it. They're afraid if they take away all the struggle and they live their life's purpose and make the money they want to, is that someone will leave them because that person is not going to match their growth. And that is a real big problem.
So let's do it this way, because the teaching points are spot on.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love to show people is the examples. Don't just do what I said.
Right.
So what's something that you have overcome that you're most proud of?
Oh, well, I'll just, 7 years ago when I got into this work, I just come off a divorce after being married 30 plus years. And I didn't ask for the divorce. So you can imagine for me, who, family is big, how, I mean, it was not pretty. And I was kind of messy when I first showed up in this world. I could get triggered, I could shed some tears, but I kept going. So the example is, even though I knew I was a mess and I knew others, just because of my psychology background, were thinking of me a little bit less of, because I was messy. It's not that I cried all the time, but I really struggled to, get past that and on to being successful in this business. But I kept showing up and I kept trying. And then one day people looked at me and went, "Oh,
Wait a minute.
whoa, she's ahead of me. Oh, she's making money. Oh." And I said, "Oh my goodness." No matter what happened, and which I'm proud of, I kept my home throughout the whole thing. I
Yeah.
decorated it. It was important to me. And so that's a real good example of recent. It'll be 7 years in 6 months from now that I've been able to accomplish all that.
Well, and I think one of the key things you said, you kept doing the work, but you didn't give up.
No, I didn't give up. Well, and I have a thing I say to myself. I go, well, I mean, if you don't do it now, what are you going to do?
One of the best things I've done for my business is created a situation where I am now completely unemployable, right? Because
Absolutely. Well, and the interesting thing, when that all first happened 7 years ago, I did try to get employed, but I was overqualified
yeah,
and and everything, and nobody would hire me. So I know you just got to keep going. It's got to be my business. So I have no out. I have no out.
well, and the other thing you're talking about is that level of personal responsibility where not just for making it your own. Everybody talks about the kind of negative side, not negative, but the hard side of personal
Yeah,
responsibility. But
sure.
the upside of personal responsibility is you get to create whatever you want to create.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't want to go work for anybody else. I love my business. I love my clients. I'm ready for the next big change for next year. I mean, if you didn't grow through 2020, boy, have you missed out, because next year you're going to get to implement all this growth out there externally and bring new things or upgraded things to your clients and new clients. So I'm excited.
So if you would have some advice, so there's somebody listening to this that hopefully is identifying, I'm stuck, I'm not doing the work, I'm giving up too soon. And you and I both know, like you said, you're 7 years in. What
Right.
would be, what are the first steps? One of the things I always said for me, the first step for me in my personal growth was a gratitude journal, because I was angry as hell.
Mhm.
I was, and I left corporate of my own desire, and I had my business and I was having success with the business I had at the time, but I was so exhausted and overwhelmed. And a good day was one where I did not end up screaming in my car going, "Oh my God, you're such an idiot," talking to myself. It was brutal. And a gratitude journal is kind of where I started to help me calm down and change my mindset. So what else could somebody do if they're starting to see, okay, I'm getting this? How do they get started?
Yeah, so I think a gratitude journal is great. And I think there's several layers to this, like anything. So you could start with a gratitude journal. You could start with a journal. I am consistent with journaling, have been for the last 10 years. Uh, like, meditation. And when I have a problem, I am willing to go find the person I need to hire if I can't really your friends and your family can't help you. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. You're wonderful when you're not wonderful in that moment. And so I've been willing to hire both for external growth. And the first thing I would hire for is how to make money in business, sales. And if you have any money issues, then all that needs to be taken care of. And then whatever internal piece that you need, a person that can help you with it internally, because it's hard to do any of this by yourself,
Yeah.
especially the smarter you are and the older you are, because you are set in your habits and it's hard to see by yourself. So start with some type of journaling, meditation, anything. But if that's not helping, then you've got to go to the level of hiring the right people.
I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of things changed for me because you can read all the books you want,
Yeah,
but that's not applying it. It's all very interesting, and I'm still an avid reader,
right,
but it's not applying it. Somebody externally who doesn't buy into your stories.
right. Because your friends, neighbors, and family, yeah, they do, or they have such an altered view of who you are. Because I think of my brothers, how they view
Right.
me. It is so different than who I am now, because they just remember the 21-year-old and they've stuck with that. So
Right,
they're like,
right, exactly.
right.
Exactly.
So it's got to be someone that can truly help you, and to make the next step so they can point out, I'm not here to have you like me. I'm here to help you when you hire me. And of course, I'm not a mean person, so you will end up liking me, but there will be days you will not want to be with me. And
Right.
that's okay, because that's telling me I've hit a nerve and that's where we got to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if people want to continue this conversation with you, because this is awesome, and personally, I know how much insight you can provide and how much help you can provide. And I love your approach to sales because that is really where so many people get hung up. And if you don't master your issues with money, and if you don't
Right.
master your issues with asking other people for money, then you don't have a business. So how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So yes, I'll just say sales is an inside job.
Yes.
It's all here. So yes, you can get a hold of me, LoriAnne Reeves. It's LoriAnne at LoriAnneReeves.com. My website is LoriAnne Reeves. My Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Instagram is all LoriAnne Reeves. And I am available on all those channels, messaging, and send me an email. And I would love to chat with anybody, even if it's a referral I need to give them to the right person. So
Absolutely. And I'm going to wrap it up with that because one of the things I know about you is it really is sales is about coming from an authentic place of service. And if that means
absolutely.
sending you in the right direction, just as happy to do that as
Yeah.
helping you directly. Well, thank you again so much. This is awesome. I've got a list of content that we can do a whole series on here.
Yeah.
No, we'll
Well,
be
thank you for having me, Erin. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Ready Yet podcast. I get so motivated by the amazing accomplishments of the remarkable people I meet, and I'm excited to be able to share some of their stories with you. You can find more episodes of Ready Yet at your favorite source for podcasts or at conqueryourbusiness.com. And if you've already decided that you are ready to become the person you need to be to achieve your big goals, feel free to reach out to find out how I can support you in your efforts. Or check out the Work with Erin page on the Conquer Your Business website. I also invite you to share this podcast with anyone you know who loves to learn and be inspired. And if you're so inclined, I'd be absolutely grateful for any reviews you'd like to share as well. Thanks again for joining me. This has been Erin Marcus, hopefully inspiring and helping you to go conquer your big dreams.